Welcome to discussion session 1 of the ChangeWorks System Coaching Program. My name is Dave Miller, Director of Partner Expansion at the Institute for Productive Tension. Discussion session number 1 is all about the nature of change. At this point, you should have completed the discovery session on the nature of change, where T laid out the change management principles that form the foundation of this coaching program. If you haven't listened to that session yet, go back and do that now before doing this session. Because the purpose of this discussion session is to take the material T has laid out about the nature of change and talk about how you can apply these principles and tools in your coaching practice. And with me to have that conversation are 3 of our esteemed faculty members who have all had extensive experience applying ChangeWorks in their coaching and consulting practices. And you can find out more about each of our faculty members on our faculty page at changeworkssystemcoaching.com. But let me tell you who's with me today and where they're from. First, we have Dr. Wayne Buchanan from South Bend, Indiana. We have Paul Hagan from Cincinnati, Ohio. And not to be confused with T. Falcon Napier, we also have Dr. T. Waldman Williams here. So welcome, faculty. Glad you're with us. We're looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Thank you.
And let's jump into our first topic. We know as coaches, it's vitally important to understand what clients want when they come to us for coaching. T discusses how what drives someone to change is kind of what they want to gain and maintain when it comes to control. They want to be able to direct and regulate their world. T also talks about how a client will want to solve a problem, seize an opportunity, satisfy a need. So what I'm curious about is, faculty, what's been your experience when working with clients when they come to seek your services? Wayne, what's been your experience?
Yeah, Dave, I have a interesting, unique situation in that I have 2 very distinct populations that I tend to coach. I have the coaching that happens with the students in the university within that context, but then I also have coaching that happens with entrepreneurs. And they tend to show completely distinct sorts of issues, as we would expect. The students show up and they are very much about, I need to solve a problem. It's a problem with a grade, it's a problem with how do I go apply for this job, which technically is probably seizing an opportunity, or it's in a problem in one of their engineering design problem situations. They often come asking for solutions and get coaching instead, which is always a surprise to them. The entrepreneurs, on the other hand, they tend to come with things that are very relative. I want more money. I want less stress. I want more productivity. I want to have a better response to a given situation. So those do end up spreading across the whole range of solving a problem, seizing an opportunity, satisfying a need. Better response to a situation. They really want to solve that problem of, I don't like the way that this situation, this action happens. They want to seize the opportunity of being able to increase their productivity so they can do more of the things that they would like to do. They have lots of opportunities. They want to jam more of them into their day, or satisfying that need of reducing their stress, gaining money, etc.
Okay, great. Yeah, so when you deal with clients, you see all of these represented.
Yeah, and while I don't always think of those 3 specifically, I almost always ask the question of, where is this person trying to gain or maintain control?
Nice. Okay. And that gives you a lot of clarity on how to meet them where they are, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it gives me a new set of questions to ask, a new path to start following down in questioning in order to get the details that we need to head in the right direction.
Terrific. Thanks. Uh,
This is
yeah, go
this
ahead,
is this
Paul.
is Paul. If I could add to that, that's really I like what you said about I'm trying to pay attention to where they're looking to maintain control. I find that actually sometimes in play in the actual initial discussion. They're coming to a coach they may not have had coaching before. There's sometimes could be an anxiety or awareness around the whole initial dialogue, and I treat that as an opportunity to build their trust. But at the same time, recognize that they may want to maintain control in that discussion enough to the point where they may not even be that forthcoming about what their need really is, and
Mm,
asking open questions like, "So what brings you here today? What's really on your mind?" And sometimes the stated even they can't even state why they're there clearly, or if they are, it's a little bit of a diversion because there's something else that they're going to. And so I think it's really almost artful sometimes to create a trusting environment where they might start to open up as to what's really on their mind.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, in other words, the presenting problem isn't always the problem that they really want to deal with.
Right.
Yeah, great. Any other thoughts out there? Let me ask this question. Not all coaches focus on all three of these things. Um, of these, what would you say clients actually pay you to help them do? In other words, when clients engage coach for money, which, a lot of most of our coaches listening, this is their career. So they want to make a living at it. Where do you think uh, the need for change, where do you think it gravitates from? Is it more solving a problem, seizing opportunity, satisfying a need?
This is T, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have had all of those,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends upon the client and where they see it. But um, they could want to seize an opportunity, but don't realize by seizing an opportunity, you have to actually solve a problem.
Sure.
Well, if they want to satisfy a need, maybe it's really about looking at the need differently, like an opportunity. So it's sometimes one, or it's sometimes a combination, or actually even all three.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Some of these are flip sides or two sides of the same coin, right? Or I can't think of a three-sided coin, so I can't say that. But um, other thoughts on that
Yeah,
question?
I've had people come just recently. Somebody, he's taken the business back. A sale didn't come through, so he's suddenly now the CEO of this bigger company. And he kind of came in with his very aspirational. I just want to be a great CEO, and I want to be able to build this business and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. And then I asked a question. I said, well, is there anything that you're concerned about you that might hold you back from being able to do that? Which was actually kind of a solve a problem, kind of a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
he went there right away. It was really interesting. He didn't so much appeal to the aspiration, I just want to be great. It's like, whoops, no, I've got something here that I know may hold me back. That's really what I want to address. So I think you're right. All these things are very, very closely connected.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in my experience, as a coach, especially in the business arena, I've had more people hire me to take on a challenge to get out of a situation that's causing them pain versus the aspirational seizing an opportunity. And again, I think they go together. Um, but there seems to be more tension, more urgency around solving a problem, and people willing to pay more money for that than they are seizing opportunity. At least that's been my experience. So it's interesting to see
Yeah.
what people deal with there.
I found that over time it changes also. People
Mm,
typically come in because they've identified a problem that they need to solve. Once we've solved it, then we've made some more space in their mental area to actually start thinking about seizing more opportunities. And as we've developed over time, I find that my clients tend to often live at the seizing opportunities level. And when something, a problem arises, they definitely fall back to, I want to solve this so I can go back to seizing opportunities.
that's a great observation. Yeah, I think it does change over time and change based on the circumstance too. So there's a lot of variables at play there. Well, great discussion there. Let's move on to our next kind of topic here. Now that we've covered what clients want, another question to reflect on is what do we as coaches actually do to help clients make the changes they want to make? Paul, I think you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I've learned from T on this issue, our RT, author of all this program, is the idea. I used to try to make people feel better when they first met me, and I suddenly realized that's I'm letting them off the hook. And in some ways, we ought to have a real keen sense of or the urgency almost around what they do.
Mm-hmm.
The funny analogy, the funny metaphor that I use is trout fishing. I'm not sure how people know about trout fishing. I didn't know anything about it years ago. With trout fishing, it's very interesting. The trout don't want to chase, food. They actually have a calculus around how much energy it will take to go chase that fly that's floating in the water. And when you cast to a fly, they look at it and they don't do much about it until it starts to get close to them. And then they have to decide whether or not to take that fly or not. And then if they don't, the fly kind of goes, downstream. And then there's almost a anxiousness around, it's going to be too hard for me to get it. And they just kind of let it go. And oddly enough, I consider a lot of client engagements kind of like trout fishing, is paying attention to, where their energy is and at what point do they finally, start to, really want to pay attention and engage with stuff. But I think the ability to ask a really good question at the right time and then shut up and let them honestly feel, I'll use the word tension around what their issue is, I think gets them engaged more than anything else. Because I'm trying to get them to take ownership. Sometimes they come to a coach and they want the coach to take ownership of their problem. And that's not our job.
Mm.
Our job is them to feel the full weight and the ownership of what they're dealing with. Because that's, as we said earlier, they want to get out of that situation. So that's what I pay attention to initially.
So one technique you use to help clients make their changes is asking powerful questions, it sounds like, that gets them reflecting on their situation.
Sure, it's a basic process. We all have our set of questions, but it's usually like, so what are you trying to deal with? Where are you trying to go? What if you don't get there? What if you don't solve this problem? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you mean for that to happen? To be in this situation? Are you willing to take some steps toward where you want to go? Those kinds of questions, I think, almost kind of help break. These problems are kind of big, hairy problems, and I think when you break them down into bite-sized pieces like that, it seems more manageable to them. That's usually how I try to do it, break it down.
Okay, very good. So breaking down in steps, I'm just taking kind of inventory of some of the techniques, asking questions, self-reflection, breaking things into smaller pieces. What other things do we do as coaches to help clients make their changes?
So much we can't begin to start talking about it.
Yeah. Well, notice, I think one of the points here is notice that we don't get them the job. We don't get them the promotion. We don't get them, we don't do that work. They do it. So it's almost like a client will come to us, and it's almost like a transactional thing where they want us to help them with, say, you know, how to have better time management, for example. And what ends up happening, I think, for the masterful coaches is that it becomes more transformative in terms of, well, what's going on in you that's making time management so difficult, right? It's not just learning the technique, but what else is happening.
Well, Dave, it's interesting because I was just thinking, I was thinking internally,
Mm-hmm.
not aloud, and that is they become more aware of themselves.
Yes.
And by becoming aware of themselves, they change that opportunity and need and may have thought there wasn't a problem. So it's actually moving it toward that for them to understand. By actually taking that opportunity, you are solving some problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Dave, to your point about moving from transactional to transformational, and you can't do that too quickly, and sometimes not even too obviously. Nobody wants to sit down in the chair in my office and say, I want to be transformed as an individual. It's not going to happen. But to your point, I did have somebody just recently, came in and said, I've got this opportunity to be this the CEO of a much larger organization, and I got to decide what to do. I had some loyalty to my old job and all the things you might imagine. A purely transactional coaching engagement, what I call performance coaching,
right?
You'd end up putting the pro-con list up on the whiteboard, which I think is just worthless because we have a funny way of evening out the pros and cons in the way we want. The bigger issue was, did this person have confidence to take on the job? Is this something that they really wanted to do? Would this give them a platform to really kind of be a more purposeful leader? It was much, much more about them than it was to check off all the pluses and minuses of the particular job. And that's where the really cool work gets done. And that's where you really start to have an impact transformationally on the individual. Opportunities are always going to be there. Problems are always going to be there. At the end of the day, we're trying to build the capacity of our clients to manage those opportunities and problems in their life and in their career.
And actually, it's more sustainable. Yesterday, I heard a coach talk about transformational versus transactional coaching and how he has developed the relationship and making them to be able to make decisions while they're out there on the field. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Building the capacity of the client to, it's almost like making the client more resourceful to deal with what comes their way. So good stuff.
I find that one of the ways that I do that is to help people take on a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really what Paul was saying there about, it's not about the job itself, it's about you. And, if you're in an interview situation, are they interviewing you or are you interviewing them?
Yeah, good point. Right. So yeah, helping them look at things from different perspectives. I do a lot of work with clients just on their mindset, looking at their belief system, looking at the way they think about things, which ties into perspective as well. Because I find that has such a powerful effect on behavior, what they choose to do or not do. So yeah, this is a nice list of what we do as coaches to help them make those changes. Good discussion. Let's move on to another topic that T discussed. He talked about the dynamics, some of the dynamics of change using this graphic of change clusters, as I think T calls them. Namely, he discussed the dynamics that clients deal with in that there's people that want, in our reality, that want us to change. There's also, so those forces play on us. There's also the dynamic that there are people in our world that we want to change. And that has an impact on how we relate to other people and how they perceive us and interact with us. And then there are things about ourselves that we want to change. And we have that graphic. And I'm curious how you as coaches have used these principles, and in particular, in what ways have you used the change clusters as a tool in your coaching?
This is T, and not to be confused again.
You're right.
I had a client, I'm just going to call her Sarah because it's a lot easier. And what I do with a lot of clients, I have consulting practice, and it's really typically around systems engineering. But within the systems engineering, if I have a consulting practice, I also do coaching of clients. And on this one particular client, her boss and other teammates were having issues with this individual. And it was a large organization, and they were trying to implement a systems engineering approach, which hadn't worked for 2 years, which is why I came in. And so the individual, Sarah, was very successful in the past, previous to them trying to do this around their whole organization. Had implemented a number of things for the client, but was resisting taking on new assignments and was resisting even getting her employees to do this. So everybody, if you think of Sarah being that focal point and everybody wanting her to change,
Mm-hmm.
was important. And so what I did when I sat down with her was to just point out and talk to her about, well, what is it that you're seeing, your boss, I'm just going to say boss, employees, clients, peers, what
Mm-hmm.
do you see them wanting from you? And then I went through and then asked her, what do you think is really important to change or important to the situation that you're all trying to get to for systems engineering? And what has worked for you in the past and may not be working for you in the future? So I use this tool almost like a circle of influence,
Mm-hmm.
as as one of them would say. And so having her see this and putting up all the different little post-its and everything around, she started seeing what what was happening to her, as to what she might have to change herself. She didn't see it as a job or a performance issue. She just saw it that somebody was trying to get her to do more work. Well, yes, they were, but she needed to move off of that. And it was really around fear. And it was really around they're wrong and I'm right,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. So it was getting her to visualize as well as articulate what was trying to happen, particularly with the overall vision that they had for the organization and how she was key to moving that vision ahead, but getting her to understand what she needed to change about herself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so T used kind of a graphic like this, and I guess she could name different individuals in her reality that had these expectations of her, and you could almost uh, process it that just looking at that visual, that graphic.
So when I talked about that, she didn't see this as a job performance or even that, but what she was, the bottom line is that she saw that holding on to what she had done in the past was a sense of security for her. And so I had to assist her to move ahead into understanding that it was really about not obtaining the vision and advancing the vision for the organization. But she did that again through, and we had mentioned it earlier, the need for powerful questions and the need for her to reflect back on herself and how she was actually influencing their opinions to try and get her to change, but that she herself had to change to be able to do the work and to live up to her potential. So it was through the questions, it was through reflection, it was using this tool right there and putting the names in there and having her see what was going on, what was the current situation, what was possible, what was being in the way, and how was she feeling about that. So articulating those things were very helpful.
Yeah, so it looks like this tool really opened up a lot of really meaningful dialogue and coaching there for you in this
Yes,
situation. Great,
yes.
great. Um,
And
Go ahead.
and if I do it on the other side,
Hmm.
where I'm going to use myself as the example, where you want everybody else to change.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to use this as for my example because I am president of a Rotary Club, and one of the things that I want them to do is to attend the district conference. And when I interviewed 48 of them prior to becoming president, they all said we need to have more projects, we need to be more involved. I think it makes it more exciting. And I shared with them why I changed my perspective of being in Rotary. And that's because I became engaged and exciting. So I'm sitting there now as president, and none of these people want to do exactly what they said they wanted to do. Does that make sense so far?
Hmm.
Okay, so um, I decided to use this for myself. And I'm looking at the clients there, and what I'm finding is that I needed to do some of my own reflection on where my biases are about getting them to change. And I'm thinking, I'm the one that's feeling all the tension or feeling all the anxiety or feeling all the need to do something, and they aren't. So nobody's going to change anything unless I change myself.
Mm,
So I'm reflecting and saying, well, what questions can I ask of them? Or what things do I want them, what do I want out of this conference? And I know I can't do it all. So how can I ask them to do some of this? So I'm going to change my perspective of going and presenting and saying, I want you to go to this conference, but by saying, how can we improve our club? If somebody looks at membership and talks to a lot of different members, if somebody looks at fundraising and talks to different clubs that are out there and what they're doing. So split up all the things that are causing me anxiety and put it back in their lap. It's like that Harvard Business Review that says, put the monkey on their back.
mm-hmm. Right.
So it's forcing me to look at myself, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's a great self-reflection there in terms of saying, okay, what I'm doing is not working. So instead of the problem being about everyone else, maybe there's something I'm doing that is causing that. So what can I change? It's a
Mm-hmm.
really powerful exercise, and that you can do with yourself and with clients. That's great. Great example.
Yeah,
And
I know they're not resistant to the change, but gosh sakes, they're resistant to becoming involved until they have the right the, the right mindset to do something.
Hmm. Okay, Wayne, you were going to share something.
yeah, just that this example really brings out the way that I use this concept without actually using the diagrams.
Hmm.
I typically find this idea of who do you want to change, who wants to change you, a great segue for talking about their locus of control. And
Hmm.
where is your control? Are you handing your control over to other people who want these changes? Is this really coming from inside of you? And then turning that around in terms of their actions as well. Are you doing things to change your world? Are you doing things with the intent of changing someone else's world? And where are those boundaries?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's excellent. Excellent. Well, great. So, yeah, this is a powerful tool, whether you use the diagram or the concepts in working with your clients. Really good stuff. Anything
And
else?
just one other thing. Sometimes it depends upon how the client learns. Do they need a visual? Do they need audio? Do they need to have, is it kinesthetic, so they have to put their hands on it? So it all depends, but no matter what, I find this tool very helpful.
Excellent. That's great. And so, since we're talking about tools, there's another tool from the nature of change that we can look at, and it has to do with these four aspects of control that T covered. What do you want to gain? What do you want to lose? What do you not want to gain? What do you not want to lose? And this worksheet you can actually use with your clients as well, um, or even yourself to get clarity around a decision, and maybe more importantly, what are some of the forces working as you're making that decision. So one thing I thought we could do is try a little demo of this, of how you would use a tool like this. And T, are you game to give this a shot?
Sure.
Okay, so for that purpose, I want to whoops, kind of get out of this a little bit because I want to be able to type in some of these things. So, do we have a topic? Do you have a topic in mind in terms of a decision or something you're trying to change or do?
Would you like to use that Rotary example?
Whatever you would like.
Okay.
So,
Why don't we do that? Because it really, that way they can see it another way too, because it, so
yeah.
as
So what? Tell me again, as far as what in particular are you trying to change,
okay.
or a decision
I,
you're making regarding the Rotary?
okay. So one of the things is that I want to have members attend a conference because I'm not going to be able to listen to everything that we need to hear from other members to make our club better. Getting members to be involved and engaged so that we can all learn and be a better club.
Okay. So, as far as this is concerned, let's see how this works in this exercise. What do you want to gain?
I
Right?
want to gain, okay, I want to gain information and gain information from other clubs, have other members take ownership of what they learn, and I want it not just to be my problem.
Uh, so you want to gain sharing the work,
Yes, that's
sharing the load, maybe.
yeah, that sounds better. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anything else on that in terms of things you want to gain?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. How about what do you want to lose?
I want to lose that monkey on my back. I want to be able to I want to lose the feeling that I have to do it all myself.
Okay.
There might be some other things I want to lose,
Okay.
but
We can come back.
yeah, okay.
We can come back to that. Okay. How about these can be a little bit harder here. How about things you don't want to gain? What don't you want to gain?
I don't want to gain, it almost sounds like what I don't want to lose. I don't want to gain the reputation that only everything can be done by me, because I know it can't.
Hmm.
I don't want to gain the feeling that the other people can't do anything.
Yeah. So in other words, by doing this, um, you want to do it in a way where people don't let you down, I guess, right? Because if they,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, that's good.
that could
Hmm.
be that could be a problem. I wonder if another thing is you may not want to gain. I mean, I guess getting other people involved can be a lot of work. Could be some drama, right? That's probably something you don't want to gain, right? Drama,
Right.
maybe even criticism, right?
Yeah. So, well, that kind of comes with the territory, because that you're going to have criticism no matter what happens. But
Right.
it's really about having them understand that they have a stake in it too. So,
Right. Well, I don't
anyway.
want to put words in your mouth. I don't have to put that on if that doesn't.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I guess maybe what I was getting at even more is just hassle.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
sometimes it's easy doing things yourself versus getting other people to do them.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I would imagine that's anything else
Oh,
on things you don't want to gain.
well, part of that goes back to that reputation, now that you said that, because I don't want to gain the reputation that it's an old man's club.
Okay.
And it kind of has that, or it's only a rich person's club and nobody has to do anything but give money. And it's such a misnomer. So I don't want to continue that reputation.
Okay. How does that play out, the reputation that it's a rich person's club?
Well, some people won't join. And a lot of women don't join because they just feel they don't have it. You go back to resources, time, energy, and money to put forth in being with a service club that serves not only the community but the world. But they see for themselves that they sometimes won't join because of that.
Got it. Okay, good. How about this one? What don't
I
you want
don't.
to
Yeah,
lose?
I don't want to lose my time.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to lose that the brain drain. I want to be able to use as many opportunities that are out there from other people so that we become better. And there have been 5 things that we've used this year because of what I learned at other conferences and people were excited. So I want them to be able to see that we could actually gain by doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't want to lose that opportunity to not get it. And I don't want to lose the opportunity for people to become engaged.
Yeah, and correct. If you don't like the way I've worded something, feel free to change it.
And this is really very helpful because I get to start on this next week. Well,
Okay.
actually, right now.
Oh,
So
good. So the timing is good.
yes, it is.
What else don't you want to lose?
Um, I don't want to lose people's interest in being engaged.
Okay.
Um, and what I find is that I do have to go back and perhaps talk to individuals one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Talking in a group can be so missed. So from all of this work, I'm thinking that what do I need to change? I may need to go back out and get people to say, yes, I'll come for the 3 hours. It's not a 3-day thing, it's 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So and I've already gotten it so that they don't have to pay. They don't have to, all they have to do is invest their time. So going back to with Sarah even, or for this, is to put it into, well, what's in it for me? And get them to feel the goodness if they participate.
Okay, great. Thanks for playing on this, and I'm glad it's something really practical and timely for you. Let's kind of just step back, put the coaching hat back on, and well, keep your client hat on for a second, because
Okay.
how you said this has helped you get some clarity on what you're going to do. So
Yeah.
tell us more about that. What was kind of going on as you looked at these 4 quadrants?
Well, while I looked at the 4 quadrants, um, what I have found is that if you were doing all the talking, um, I could let you do everything. But
Hmm.
through your questions and helping to fill this out and to actually see it, I find that I have to do something different. Same thing as I did somewhat with Sarah. So what I'm finding is that um, is trying to target those individuals that I think could be on the precipice or at that threshold or at that area that they might change and go. And so what question would, move them into that direction?
Hmm.
So that's good. And the other thing is that I think I have to change is to say, well, right, what are the areas that we need to have improvement? and perhaps find those individuals that are already taking a stake in those improvements and seeing if they then could focus their objective in attending this to finding information around that. So I'm breaking it down into the components, 3 or 4, 5 components that I think other people will attend and talk to other people about at that conference. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, great.
Okay,
That's great.
that's what I'm thinking of doing.
Excellent. So let me ask, and Wayne, let me just throw it out to you. Anything you noticed as kind of the observer of the exercise?
I definitely noticed that he had to really engage, and it was good that you kept saying anything else to add here, anything else to add here, and you did circle back, and we got to see some of the things showing up. I want to gain the, oh hey, that came out much later on while we were trying to, I don't want to lose. So the seeing how the person's process of verbalizing it doesn't need to be tight compartments like this to still get huge value out of the exercise.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And the fact that you have it kind of visually in front of you means you can just kind of fill it out in any order that kind of comes up. So they can give you a brain dump, and you might be putting it in different spots. So that's that's definitely a way to use this. What I guess one observation I have just in general is that I believe almost every coach will ask this question. You know, client, what do you want, right? Which is usually what do you want to gain, right? Some coaches will then ask this question. Well, what do you want to lose? Or maybe it's more this one. What don't you want? They might ask that one, right? But they don't necessarily ask these two as much. I mean, would you agree? I think these are the ones that probably get asked less often. What do you want to lose, or what don't you want to lose? When we look at a decision.
I think so, but what's really important about these is that the only word I can think of is forces an individual to think more broadly and to deeper and more deeply.
Yes, and look at different perspectives. And I noticed it was when we got down here, that's when you started saying, "Oh, okay, I have some ideas about what I want to do now." Maybe you were thinking about them up here, I don't know, but you verbalized them when we got down here. So this process kind of fleshed things out, maybe a little
Yes,
deeper. Maybe there were some nuances that you were seeing that you didn't see before. And I think that's the power of this tool.
I agree.
Um, and I'll tell you a way I've used it with a client too. Another way you can use this is I've had a client not only use this on themselves, but use it with other people. I was working with a client that uh, his job involved a lot of traveling, and so his location in terms of where he worked versus where the home office wasn't incredibly important because he was traveling so often. And his wife kind of wanted to move to an area farther away, so like in another state, because that would have been better for the kids, weather-wise, things like that. His boss wasn't as crazy about it because that would put him farther away from the office, even though he wasn't there as that much. So I had him use this in terms of should I move or not, and say, okay, well, let's look at the perspective of your wife. And, this involves some mind reading, but he would go through this matrix and say, okay, what is his wife? What would moving do if we decided to move? What would she want to gain? What would she want to lose? And so on. And then he also did it with his boss. And it really helped him, I think, know how to approach each of them about this decision of whether to move or not, and kind of get a better sense of what he thought was important to them, what might be their drivers, their hot buttons, and know how to approach it, and kind of address each of these aspects of control in dealing with them. And it turned out to be a really nice tool for that. Okay. So good
Dave,
discussion on that. Yeah, T.
I was just going to say, and that's what's good about the flexibility of these tools, is that they are worthy of any client or any situation,
Yes, great
whether
point.
whether you use them overtly or covertly.
Exactly, exactly. Great point. Well, let's talk about another concept in the nature of change, and it's this whole idea of the threshold of activation. Okay, the threshold of activation, if you remember, is defined as the level of tension at which someone will take immediate definitive action. And I wanted to share a story in my own life that really illustrates this principle. And it had to do with my son, who's now almost 22. But when he turned 16, I took him out to breakfast for his birthday before school. And we were having this great conversation. And I took a bite of something. I don't even remember what it was, and felt a hardness that I should not have felt. And it turned out, long story short, that I had cracked one of my wisdom teeth. And I said, oh, I guess I better get this looked at quickly. And so I went to the dentist, and he says, yeah, you cracked it. Right now, there's no nerve exposed, but there's just a matter of time. You really should get this pulled. And by the way, you should get all of your wisdom teeth pulled, because they're just going to cause you problems. You don't really need them, so forth. So I said, great. So I looked at it, and I was hoping it would be covered by health insurance, and it wasn't. It actually, you needed dental insurance, which I did not have at that time. So I called my health insurance agent. He said, I can get you dental insurance. There is a 30-day waiting period. So me, just being frugal as all can be, said, well, I think I will wait for the 30 days. Okay, I'll roll the dice on that. I actually went on vacation down to the shore, and guess what? It was during that vacation that the nerve became exposed. Uh, has anyone ever had a nerve exposed in a tooth?
Yes.
How painful is it?
It's hard to think. It's hard to do anything.
Yeah, it
It's
was. It was probably one of the most severe painful experiences I ever had. It was like, it was brutal. So I called the dentist and got some pain medicine. Um, and what do you think? When I went back home, and I still had a couple weeks in my waiting period before the insurance kicked in. Do you think I waited to get that tooth pulled? What do you think?
Well, let's see.
No.
How frugal are you?
No. Well, put it this way, that pain sent me to the threshold of activation. Now, what was interesting is I did not get the other three pulled, okay, because they didn't hurt. And I said, well, I'll wait till I get on my dental insurance and wait till that's in play before I get those pulled. Let me ask you a question. Do you think I got those three teeth pulled?
No.
Wayne, you're on it today. No, I didn't. And it's been 6 years, and I still haven't, because they don't bother me, because I haven't reached the threshold of activation. Probably shows my level of discipline too. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting story about the threshold of activation, and what, you know, when people take action, when our clients take action. And my question to you, faculty, is where have you seen the threshold play out in your work with clients?
Well, I have a client that comes to mind who over time keeps bringing up the same niggling issue. And obviously, there's not enough tension for her to take action immediately. So, knowing that we can't create any sustainable tension that nature isn't already providing for us, I'll explore it every time it comes up. We'll spend a few minutes. Okay, let's ask questions. Let's see how much tension really is behind that. And it always ends up being, well, yeah, I'll do something about that eventually, maybe. So she continues to push off that particular activity, much like your other three teeth.
Yes.
Mind you, there are other aspects that come up, and it doesn't take much exploration to go, yeah, you know, there's some tension here, and things happen.
Yeah, and some things, for people, for each of us, there's certain things that we don't need that level of tension to get so high to meet the threshold of activation. There's other things where we need a lot more tension, right, before we reach that threshold. So, has anyone worked with a client where they weren't doing something, then eventually they finally did, and you can almost point to a moment where they reached that threshold? Has that ever happened in your coaching
Yes,
experience?
yes, yes, yes.
Do you have an example in mind, T?
Sure. One of them is an individual that I have as a client. In fact, I was going to talk about it later, but I'll do it now. And this individual wanted to start a retail, have an open place. He's also had a practice of something else, and he needed to have a business plan. And so, however, he doesn't have the time, doesn't have all the resources that he needed to have. And so we talked about it, and he went ahead, and the more he got engaged in really doing this work, he found that he said, he wasn't going to do it. But then I said, you'll never have this happen. How will you have this happen without your business plan? So he started putting it together. And as he put it together, he started seeing the importance of having it. And then he also saw, oh my gosh, if I do this, if I really this down in writing, I've got to do something. So he didn't have that threshold. Then he had it. And then he almost crashed down, because it was just so overwhelming. But then after a few other questions, he went back up and said, oh, I can do this. So it was interesting. It went back and forth.
Yes. Yeah, it is dynamic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing when that happens. So, well, that's good. So that's a good segue into our final topic for today, which I love this. These three variables T talks about, like, will the change occur? And he goes through this matrix where we look at these three variables that go into any decision to change: logic, feasibility, intention. Logic being, do I believe this is going to help me gain or maintain control? Feasibility, do I have the resources to make this change? And tension, do I have the urgency to do it now? So if we look at this, and T, I think you said you had some examples for almost each one of these.
I do. And it's funny that you just put up the yes one, because it was that particular individual who had a practice in something, but really wanted to do on the right side of his brain, that he was an artist also. So yes, it was logical to do it. And yes, he had the feasibility, and he got back up there to that threshold of activation and had the tension, put together the business result, opened his store, and both his practice and his other thing just really exploded.
So it was really easy once he got that last piece in place. The tension,
Yes,
right? Yes.
yes. The second one was, and it was interesting. It was with an organization, a very large law firm, where they knew they needed a vision, a value, vision, and mission, but it wasn't going to be logical. Somebody thought for them to do it. Yeah, it was feasible. We could do it all in one place. They had the tension, but then they did it because of the work we did to really build it up. First off, the logic wasn't there except for with one person. But
Mm-hmm.
getting the feasibility and everything else to work, the result was they did do it. And there was one person in particular who thought, why do we even have to do this at all? But changed after they saw the result.
Okay, great. Great
Okay.
example.
Mm-hmm.
How about this one?
And then, yeah. Well, this one actually happened when I was working at another client. And they saw the logic in having a facilitator for it, but they didn't think it was feasible because we were doing things online, because they were from all over the country, and they thought that it wasn't really going to work, and can't we just get into doing something? And yet the vice president that was in charge of the whole thing said, this needs to be done, this needs to be done for everybody across, and it needs to work together. And so you need to have a plan. And so was it feasible? They kept saying no, but they knew it needed to be done. So yes, it eventually happened. It took a little longer, I have to admit.
Right.
Because of that.
But the fire provided by senior management brought that tension up, I guess, right? So
Yes, absolutely. Thank
okay.
goodness.
You see that a lot in corporate situations. There's just some people that if they don't really believe it's true, they will do all kinds of passive aggressive things to not participate until they can't escape the visibility with someone that matters in their reality, and that brings that tension up. So I've seen that plenty of times.
The next one was where it didn't seem to be logical for them and feasible, and yes, they had the tension. And at first, the logic went back and forth with this particular client. Both of the parties coming together wanted to open a restaurant, and both of them had really good jobs, and one had a business. So the feasibility of getting them together was very difficult. And but the tension to really want to make it happen was there, but how to make that happen wasn't there. So the tension was, so we made it happen. They got to their business plan, but it was interesting because the thing that kept coming back was, what hurts partners is really the financial end of it. So yes, we got to a result of the business plan, getting that done, even though they kept saying, I don't know how we're going to get this done. I don't know where we're going to find the time, but they felt the tension, and so they got the result. But I'm just going to go back to one thing on this. When it came to feasibility, it's really important that they were talking the truth to each other. And it turned out that each one thought that they could actually get it done without having to go out after money, but it turned out they really needed to do that, but there wasn't one didn't know what the other situation was. So that actually came out as a result of getting the plan done, and they're now on hold. But what I did with them was right. They got the plan, but as a result of that, now it's stopped again. So, it's interesting. There's always something after the sale that you can actually do. Okay.
Right.
Okay. This next one was a small organization, a brand new entrepreneur. Both the husband and wife had a job. They really, really liked what they were doing. They were doing great things. And both they saw the need and the logic of doing certain things. They saw the feasibility. However, their need to really want to put together a plan to make it occur, there wasn't enough tension. And no amount of getting them to really put that together. Oh, we can do it ourselves. We've been successful. We don't need to do that. Oh, we have a couple of clients. We have this. Unfortunately, the whole business died because, one, they didn't want to go. They wanted to go through the work, but there just wasn't the tension to do it because they had some success in the past. So,
yeah,
without tension, it just doesn't work.
that's right. That's right. And you see this a lot in terms of and unfortunately, I think people that haven't been exposed to ChangeWorks sometimes will try to muster up more logic to try to get someone in this situation. It's like you see the logic of this, right? You see how it's going to make things all better, and they keep making that argument, but they're not paying attention to this piece, right? So they get frustrated with that. So this I think is a really powerful matrix to know, to see how tension is that critical ingredient. So Wayne, anything
And
to add there?
I will step into the confessional and say that I have a lot of things that make sense and I have the resources for that just don't happen until deadlines roll through to
Oh
raise
yeah,
that tension.
yeah. I think I'm guilty of that sometimes too, as well.
I
So,
am too.
yeah, it's human nature, right? So
The confessional gets larger.
exactly, exactly. Well, that and that leads us to something that's really kind of key and foundational to this, is that we need to pay attention to our clients' tension when we're working with them. So with that, that concludes our discussion today on the nature of change, and I'd like to thank all of our faculty members for their great insights. Thank you so much. And your next step in the program is to move on to the application and integration section of the nature of change, where you'll have activities and exercises that will help you integrate these principles even further. So go at it, and I will see you all on the next discussion call.